spent successfully the night on Skid Row. Woohoo! This is the world's poorest country and there is a lot of bad things said about it. That's why I'm going to spend the next 100 hours here to see with my own eyes if it's true or not. This tribe, they are living the exact same way like 10,000 years ago, and in the end of this video we're going to see if they are happier than normal people.
So as the president of the I Hate Mr. Beast Club, you guys will know I've tried to cancel Mr. Beast so many times over the last like 6 to 8 months. Seemingly does not work too much, but now what I was concerned with has actually happened in that successful Mr. Beast copycat channels are now springing up, and they're actually making even more racially insensitive content and also exploiting poverty for content. There is a guy called Fidias, a newly successful YouTuber who's actually kind of friends with Mr. Beast, who has been making these viral challenges. Now, a lot of them aren't inherently problematic, but there are a couple which even I don't think Mr. Beast would touch, including going to the poorest nation in the world, according to the UN, Burundi, for 100 hours. And you guys might have actually seen this thumbnail trending on Twitter because I saw it going viral. I posted about it as well. Then he also spent 50 hours with a hunter-gatherer tribe in Tanzania. And surprisingly, this actually isn't as bad as the Burundi one, but we're going to get into my own problems with this video as well. And then an older video where he clickbaited being homeless in the most dangerous place in America, which was Skid Row. So obviously using poverty as a backdrop and traveling to a very, very poor place to make some viral Mr. Beast style content. Now, the only thing I will say is I like Fidias and I like his content more than Mr. Beast content, because I guess I appreciate actually making the effort to go and do these things yourself with like one guy filming it, in terms of just like the effort put in. And I will say there are elements of these problematic videos that at least try and humanize to a degree. And although a lot of it does come across as very exploitative, it doesn't feel as fake and manufactured as Mr. Beast, who seems to be purely doing everything just to generate as much money as possible and to become extremely popular. Like, this is a guy who is a wildly successful YouTuber, millionaire, who still posts about like view counts and sub counts on his Twitter feed. I just find that very, very bizarre. He's so concerned with these things. Getting very strong Elon Musk vibes from Mr. Beast, which is also funny because Mr. Beast also simps for Elon Musk. And now we have YouTubers like Fidias simping for Mr. Beast. And because I haven't seen too many people covering this guy, there is a chance Fidias will watch this video. And the only thing I will say to him is I don't think your style of content is inherently bad, and I don't think like all these viral challenges are inherently bad. But I think the things I'm going to highlight in this video are things you should take into account when you're making future videos, because I just feel like exploiting poverty and being generally racially insensitive, I don't think is necessary when so many of your other videos which don't have these things have done so well. But all of that coming up for you today. Please like the video, and in the comments, I guess the question is, what do you think of Mr. Beast content? Like, seriously, I have found a lot of you who hate it as much as I do, and of course there are a lot of problems with it, and I'm just curious what do general people in my audience think of Mr. Beast content. Also, follow me on social media at the Kavernacle on Twitter, on Instagram. Check out the subreddit down in the description. Check out my second channel, the Kavernacle Extra, where I archive my live streams. I do 2 times a week. Live streams will resume next week. Just because of the heat wave, I haven't been doing them. Also, for every 5k we get a new chocolate orange. Help me finally complete this pyramid before I go away to Vietnam in September. And also consider becoming a patron. I want to build up as many $1 to $3 patrons as possible, and the benefits of that are getting access to my Nintendo Switch friend code and the private patrons Discord server. So with all of that out of the way, I guess we can't do this video on Fidias without talking about Mr. Beast himself. Now, you guys will know I've made a lot of videos on Mr. Beast. I think the one I did as a collab with Amy C3, the Twitch streamer, who you guys, if you use Twitch, should go and follow and watch. Basically, we talked about how racially insensitive he was and how much he exploited poverty. Now, I'm not going to show you every clip we went through, but here is just a taste for you what my problems are with Mr. Beast. Like, there was this guy who won a game show, who lived in like a poor environment, had a car that had damage, shared a house with a lot of people. Just have a look at this clip at how Mr. Beast reacts to that.
The 2001 Toyota Camry.
I bought it like that.
Oh, dang. How much did you buy it for?
$600.
So the current house we were just in, which is smaller than the one you just bought, you actually split it in half with another family.
Yes.
That's crazy. That's crazy. That's crazy.
Technically, anybody could use $1 million, but it's clear that this is really going to change your life and help you out in a positive way. And I'm glad we could do that for you, man.
Now we're gonna take you to Mark's house and just show you where he lives.
So it's flat.
Your cousin is sleeping on an air mattress that's like has a hole in it, so he's sleeping on the floor. Can I just say, I'm super glad you won the $1 million. I really am. The more you show us around, the more I'm like, thank God you won the $1 million. The more you show us around, the more you show us around, the more you show us around, the more I'm like, thank God you won the $1 million.
I don't even know how you can realize there are no problems with how you've edited this video. There's also another one where he runs around a prison and he stays in a prison, I think, for like 2 days. Talks about how it's like the most awful thing ever to be treated like a prisoner, but the whole thing is like an absolutely massive joke.
Well, go into your cells. I'm gonna help you out.
Okay. I feel like the objective of prison is to make you feel like an animal.
Everybody line up outside your cell.
Every time I finally fall asleep, I get woken up. I'm so sick of this place.
Problem. In prison, they strip everything away from you, so even something as simple as hot water for a few minutes literally changes the course of your whole day.
Clean the prison and all around subject it to the mental warfare that is being a prisoner. I feel like the objective of prison is to make you feel like an animal. Make you feel like an animal. Make you feel like an animal.
Now, my problem with that style of content is mainly that he's making a joke of an actual issue and doesn't raise awareness for the issue. Of course, in America, disproportionately, black men are incarcerated for non-violent drug offenses. So maybe, Mr. Beast, you could use your platform to maybe raise awareness because you didn't realize how bad prison would be, but then you realize it is terrible, and who does that affect the most? But of course, loads of people, no matter what your race, suffer in the brutal US prison system, which is, you know, directly linked with capitalism because you have this private prison industrial complex where there is a profit incentive to send Americans to prison for a long, long time. But me and Amy talk about like loads more Mr. Beast clips, so if you're interested, go check that out. But Mr. Beast is of course one of the most popular YouTubers, became popular doing like viral challenges, like listening to like Everyday Bro for like 10 hours, or like saying stuff 1,000,000 times. And that is actually the origins of Fidias. This video that kind of made his channel grow was the one where he says, I said Mr. Beast 1,000,000 times. Kind of basically just copying Mr. Beast to become viral as well. And for those curious, because of course English isn't his first language, Fidias is a Greek Cypriot from what I could find online, who also says, as part of his national service for the military, he trained to become like the Cypriot version of the Navy SEALs.
I will say 1,000,000 times, Mr. Beast, this has never been done before. This is the last one. 3, 2, 1.
So Fidias did that viral challenge and got a bit of traction. He then did another video 5th of August 2021 titled I shook the top 100 YouTubers hands, and he shakes like a lot of really famous YouTubers hands, and it ends with his hero Mr. Beast, who he personally visits.
I'm going to shake hands with 100 of the biggest YouTubers because it has always been my dream to meet them in person. Finally time!
Wait, what are you two ready? Oh,
Yeah!
there you go.
Now, I don't know if there's some sort of personal friendship there, but Fidias actually did then later feature on a Mr. Beast kind of contest where everyone holds on to a Lamborghini, and Fidias actually did win the Lamborghini as well.
Grab 50 random people and everyone take your right hand and put it on the Lamborghini. Whoever takes their hand off last gets the $300,000 car.
This is my dream become true. I'm in a Mr. Beast video.
Okay, there. You should be happy. I hope these are tears of joy.
Immediately sold the Lamborghini and...
So for Fidias, it must be amazing. Copy your favorite YouTuber by doing a viral challenge. Then yourself grow a very successful channel where you actually get to meet and interact with your favourite YouTuber, MrBeast, and even feature on one of his contests. So it's clear that Fidias takes the style of MrBeast and kind of does very similar challenges to MrBeast, and if you go for his channel, he has stuff like surviving on an island or spending 24 hours buried in the sand and just doing like various weird challenges. But because MrBeast does that with a side of being racially insensitive and exploiting poverty for content, it's probably not surprising that Fidias takes this one step further and doesn't just like subtly exploit poverty in America. He actually goes abroad to see the poorest countries on earth. So Fidias has now changed the thumbnail, I think maybe realizing he got a lot of backlash. I don't think it's actually that much better, to be honest, because he's clearly edited in this crowd of African children, and I'm really skeptical if in both thumbnails these are even children they met in Burundi. But here's the first one I tweeted, and there you see him surrounded by black African children with the title, "I spent 100 hours in the world's poorest country," and just look at that face. You know, nothing says excitement like seeing abject poverty in one of the world's poorest countries ever and doing some sort of weird soy face. But it gets even worse, like I tweeted. If you zoom in, this isn't him actually in a crowd of Burundian children. He's actually edited a lot of these children into the crowd itself. So here is the left-hand side. And you can see that these children aren't like naturally in the crowd. This one on the left really sticks out. And when we go to the right side, look at this stuff. Like all of these children are literally edited in to make it look like a bigger crowd. You have that one at the back just looking on, and then you have like different qualities of image. I'm skeptical if these are even stills from the footage he filmed of Burundi. I mean, not to mention like the white savior racial connotations, the poverty tourism that so many white celebrities get really, you know, dragged for when they do it for charity. So let's get into the content of the video. I have a lot to say about this video, but let's start with, I guess, the positive elements of this video. Let's start with the things I think are redeeming and then analyze how maybe the video should have stopped with these little points. So here are the positive sides of his visit to Burundi.
The guide left us in the hotel, but we wanted to explore the neighborhood. And while we were walking, we found strangers who were about to change the direction of our trip.
Can you tell us some stuff about Burundi that we don't know?
Everything is really cheap, I can say that. We have a nice tea, we have a nice coffee. You already drink that?
No, we didn't drink coffee yet. We just go in.
I will buy.
Okay. We are so happy that we found you.
They are really famous for their coffee and tea, and we're going to try it now.
We have a cappuccino. You want a cappuccino?
Yeah.
Try it. It's good, but it's not sweet enough.
The next day, the stranger took us to see the biggest tea plantation in Burundi.
All this green there is tea plantation.
We paid only $10 to see 1 hour private performance from 20 people. Look at them. This is the best day of my life, period.
So if the title of the video was I went to the world's poorest country to see what it was really like, and then showed you a lot of the elements that are positive, that despite, you know, this country being really impoverished as a result of capitalism and the legacy of European colonialism, there is a lot to this country that you can respect, that you can, you know, like culturally, and they have a lot to offer, and it is worth trying to like help this country or something like that. I wouldn't have any problem with that. But I showed you the best bits of the video, the bits where I'm willing to give him a bit of a pass. But there are so many bad bits of this video. There is so much like white savior BS, so much just exploiting poverty for content and to make yourself look better. I don't even really know where to start. Let's start with him visiting a school and telling children that school isn't that important, you just all need an iPhone, in a country where I think like 9% of people have access to the internet. So have a look at this.
After a lot of time, our guide convinced them to let us in, but they didn't allow us to film, except this little kid that has malaria.
The biggest problem here is malaria. You get malaria by getting mosquito bites that is dirty, and it's one major disease here that hundreds of thousands of people die.
The principal let us go inside the class, and I was so excited.
I am 100 years old. I am 22. How old are you? 17 years old. The most things that I learned, they are not only from school. They are online, from the phone. They can access all the clever minds.
I said this because only 10% of the population has access to the internet. I left the class and felt inspired that these kids will have so much potential to help their country if they have access to the huge learning that the internet provides us. And I have a solution that I will tell you more about later.
Okay, so like where do you even start with that? Just kind of throwing that like random 1-second clip of a kid with malaria in my opinion, like pretty gross. You're not really saying much about malaria, and he doesn't say much about malaria. Yeah, malaria is a bad problem in parts of Africa, as it is in many parts of the world. It's a big killer in parts of Africa. Thanks for saying that and showing this picture of a kid. I don't understand what the purpose of that part was, but going to a school and saying to kids, well, oh yeah, education, not that important really. Telling really poor kids in school, in like the poorest country on earth, but yeah, school ain't important. Go get an iPhone and you can access the internet and you can enjoy the wisdom of Elon Musk was in that screenshot. I mean, I guess socialist Albert Einstein was in there as well. I don't think Burundian kids are going to learn too much from reading Elon Musk's Twitter feed. But you just have to be insanely naive and insanely out of touch to go and say that to these poor African school children. Like, I don't know what is going through this guy's head. He seems so insensitive to the economic situation of many of these people because he's just exploiting them for content and he's making them part of his video for content. Although he might enjoy interacting with these kids and get some sort of personal fulfillment of it, you can't deny at the end of the day he's exploiting impoverished people for content on YouTube, hoping it will go viral and will make him a lot of money. This video has about 600,000 views, probably made a couple £1,000 off this video alone. So he also goes to a hospital to see what it's like there. Obviously lots of people with malaria. One person is actually disabled and hasn't had access to a wheelchair to move. Fidias goes and finds the man a wheelchair and gives it to him. What a nice gesture.
Can't walk. He has been in the same bed for 2 years because the hospital doesn't have enough wheelchairs for all the patients. So I wanted to surprise him with one. I told him to close his eyes for the surprise.
Thank you.
My flight will leave in 1 hour. That's why we went for a short ride outside. And as you saw, with only $200, we'll probably change this man's life. And we can change more lives together.
I think when more naive younger people watch that and I criticize it, they'll be like, well, he's done a nice thing. Like, how can you criticize that? And the criticism is, he is doing a nice thing. He has bought someone a wheelchair. That's nice of him. But at the end of the day, he's also filmed it all. And it's part of his content, which is going to make him money, and it's part of his branding and image. And even if he's doing this mainly because he's a genuinely nice guy, it has the dual purpose of actually exploiting this guy's economic and physical health situation for his own content, where people watch that and be like, oh, Fidias, you know, such a wonderful person, you know, you bought that guy a wheelchair. And that gets the overall point of this kind of like philanthropy and charity work that Mr. Beast often engages with as well. Exploiting people's poverty and poor situations to make content and make you look better is gross and exploitative, in my opinion, especially when it's in the literally the poorest country in the entire world. Now, this gets to the point where Fidias at least is trying to do something for Burundi. He's actually made a GoFundMe. Now, he talked about like the internet at the start, and then he starts talking about like medicine and other things, and we'll get into why this seems pretty pointless, because it seems like there is absolutely no structure to where this money is going. And I don't know about the rules of GoFundMe, but the cynic in me is there a tax incentive to do some sort of charity work? But let's have a look at both the end of the video and the individual video he did on his GoFundMe page. The music sounds licensed. I don't know if it is, but you might not actually see the GoFundMe one because I might cut it out if I get copyright striked on YouTube.
So that's why we're here, to make a fundraiser with the goal to raise $20,000. For every dollar that you donate, I will be matching the donations. So your donations will have double the impact.
and we are going to come again and make a video here in Burundi.
By spending the money to buy food, medicine and other necessary things to help the people of Burundi. I believe that inequality between the countries is our biggest problem. These kids deserve equal opportunities like the kids in privileged countries, and help as many people as I can. So I am taking the responsibility on me, and I ask you to donate money and help the people of Burundi, the poorest country in the world.
So in that very sad video, he shows a lot of the footage of the poor people from Burundi that he actually used in the video. I'm a cynic. So this has raised $8,000 at the moment. The goal is $20,000. He'll match every donation with $2. So what's that? $60,000. But in the description and in what he talked about, there is no strategy. There is no plan. There is no collaboration with local charity groups or local aid organizations, which if you're raising only 60,000 euros for a very poor country, you can't just throw money at stuff and sort of just like on a whim help certain groups or certain organizations. It's better to invest that money in an actual project which will make people's lives better. Like if you go to Burundi with 60,000 euros in cash and just start buying wheelchairs for people, or just start buying medicine, or just start buying food for random people, yeah, that's all well and good, but that money could be put towards something that is sustainable and could help people in the long run. Not to mention, this Fidias guy does not seem to even understand the complexities of Burundi and why it is one of the poorest countries in the world. And again, without the strategy and without specifically targeting something, he hasn't outlined it anywhere in this. It just seems like a guy who either wants to help and is insanely naive, or has main character syndrome and thinks he can solve Africa's problems himself by raising 60,000 euros. And of course, it also plays into the white savior trope. Fidias cannot give this money to local organizations in Burundi to help people. He has to go over there himself and make a video about it, and he has to save these poor black Africans from themselves, because what they need is a Greek Cypriot man in his early 20s to lift them out of poverty, which was created by capitalism, European and American interests in Burundi itself, particularly its coffee, which is mentioned in the video, and also the historic legacy of European colonialism. Now, thankfully, if you go on the video, a lot of the upvoted comments are actually criticism of it, so I want to share some of these comments with you. How gone as a society are we, where this guy is making money by monetizing ads on a video of him slumming it in the world's poorest country like some kind of challenge video, savior complex if I've ever seen one, and a need to be worshipped for it, just disgusting. So another comment, I love your videos, but this video is kind of showing one side of the country. I am Burundian and I have lived in Burundi for most of my life. I am 25 and trust me, there is much more to see from that. Even if we are regarded as the poorest country, there is definitely a better side to show. Everyone comes to the country and shows the poorer side. Every country has a poor side. This video felt like going to the US and just filming the homeless people to show the negative side. You did not show anything positive, neither did you show any snippet of the capital city and the beautiful places we have. If you had hit up someone else, or if I would have taken you around, I'm definitely sure you would have appreciated way more. If you read this Fidias, reach out so we can show the better and beautiful side. It's sad that you've shown that side of the country because there is way more. Anyone reading this, there is much more to Burundi than that. So something this whole Fidias thing reminded me of was this controversy with different white celebs and Ed Sheeran. So did Ed Sheeran commit poverty tourism in charity film? The UK singer's short film for the British charity Comic Relief has been handed a Rusty Radiator Award, given to the most offensive and stereotypical fundraising video of the year. It shows Sheeran travelling to Liberia and meeting two young boys who are sleeping in a boat on the beach. He is so touched by their plight, he decides to act then and there, offering to put them up in a hotel until a more permanent home can be found. The advert has been viewed more than 6 million times and was part of a fundraising effort which eventually raised more than 80 million for causes around the world, including Liberia. If it touched a nerve and made people pick up their phones and donate, what exactly is wrong? Ugandan photographer and Rusty Radiator juror Edward Echwalu told the BBC, it's not really about what was wrong with the video, but the general mentality that they have to bring a Western celebrity with them. They have no idea about what's on the continent. Look at him. He got emotionally attached to the situation. It tells me that he had no idea and he was not ready to be confronted with the kind of hardship people in some African cities contend with. Mr. Sheeran was also accused of playing the white saviour, swooping into people's lives and making grand gestures. but some think making it all about themselves with little understanding of the wider situation. The West is extremely misinformed. Definitely the continent has issues and depends on foreign aid, but if you do not understand the continent very well, you might think we should depend on foreign aid. I personally strongly believe even without foreign aid, but with proper leadership, we would be fine. So for Burundi itself, Quartz Africa has this little piece. With a GDP per capita of $267, the country's 10.16 million people are among the poorest in the world. As much of 89% of the active population depends on farming, a territory as densely populated as Belgium. Coffee, once the proud main export of Burundi, was controversially privatized in 2008 and has been declining for 20 years. And of course, they sell it to places like Starbucks. So yeah, like the article was saying with Ed Sheeran and Fidias, these people have no clue about Burundi or Liberia, no clue about like the government, no clue about the economic system, no clue about the exploitation that keeps these countries poor, particularly in Africa where they have a lot of like mineral wealth or crop wealth like with coffee in Burundi, which is extracted from those countries to give Westerners cheap access to things like coffee or things like rich minerals so we can live our Western consumer capitalist lifestyle at the expense of people in Burundi. And like I said, with people like Ed Sheeran, people like Fidias, they might mean well, buying a guy a wheelchair, putting those kids into a hotel and all of that. Nice on the surface, but kind of shows their mentality and how they want to make these grand gestures to make themselves look better, and there is a high degree of narcissism. I don't know about you, but if I was extremely rich like Ed Sheeran, or if I was raising money like Fidias and I was successful at it, I would invest in a local organization to tackle these problems, because the local organization can both reach more people and actually understands what poor people in countries like Liberia and Burundi actually need. And of course, it goes without saying, 60,000 euros, putting those people up in a hotel, nice for personal reasons, nice for the people who get it, does not do anything to solve systemic issues, especially African countries, a continent so ravaged by Western capitalism. I don't think these people will ever advocate for a system that does not rely on exploiting the poorest people in the world, a lot of them being in African countries. So I don't want to talk about this video as much as I spoke about the last one, but he also went to Tanzania to stay with a hunter-gatherer tribe for about a day. Now, I was very surprised that this video was actually not as bad as the last one, and I feel generally it is actually interesting because I watched this video and learned a lot about how this tribe live, and generally Fidias goes along with their lifestyle, he participates, he doesn't say anything bad about it, he doesn't demean their lifestyle. He does ask a couple of them, like, wouldn't they want, like, a normal life? And he does ask them if they would ever want to have, like, a modern contemporary life, which they say no. And at the end, he even says that these people are generally happier than Western people. And they say to him, like, you have to pay to sleep in a bed, which I did think was quite funny. I mean, there is this element about, you know, going to Africa and using this tribal society for content. Like, I don't really know how I feel about it, because he does have the guide who can speak to the native people in their language and can speak English. They are happy that he's there, they're very hospitable to him, and to be fair to him, in this video specifically, I feel he is fairly respectful, but I do have a criticism of him, and I feel like it was in the last video as well. I think like he infantilizes African people, and just because they can't speak his language and they can't interact with him properly, he essentially treats them like they aren't, I guess, intellectually developed properly. And the way he interacts with a lot of them makes me pretty uncomfortable, because although he's not hostile, although he's not like demeaning them in his words, I feel like the way he interacts with them is the way you would interact with someone if you feel like they're a child, because if you respect them as a fellow adult human, I don't know if you would like be this excitable and treat them essentially like children. I'll just show you a clip or two of what I mean.
Okay.
I
love it. Beautiful. We find some women. Oh,
she doesn't like him.
The way that girls like you here, you catch them bamboon. Strong connection with the people of the tribe.
I love this guy.
This tribe have no gods. They believe in nature.
Look at how beautiful this is.
They seem to avoid telling each other what to do, even to their children. It seems that everybody is free to behave and act as they feel like, and yet they still live in morality, harmony, and peace.
So I think Fidias is guilty of a problem that general Westerners are guilty of. Like, if you ever see a lot of English people trying to interact in other countries with people who can't speak English, the way they often talk to them is like absolutely appalling. And in my experience, I see it a lot of the time when these travel YouTubers go to Asian and African countries, essentially speak to these people like they're stupid and, you know, like they're children, like I was saying. And also there is the element of, do you know what would be fun for a video? Why don't I go native? That will surely entertain my Western audience. And although I think he doesn't depict the culture in a backwards way, there is an element like, I'm gonna go live how these like backwards non-modern people live. Wouldn't that make a great viral video? Again, while I don't necessarily feel like the video itself is the worst thing I've ever seen, I think there's that element of like Western chauvinism and a lot of this racist mentality where you think putting yourself in the situation for content is a good idea. I guess I'm just happy the results weren't even worse for these people. So that is Fidias's adventures in Africa out the way. Now let's get to him doing more poverty tourism, but this time in the United States. So this video made last May, homeless in the most dangerous place in America. So I think to start with, I'll show the bits that I think are a bit redeeming. So of course, generally homeless people in a capitalist society are seen as people often who deserve their poverty. Like, you did not contribute to the economy. You could not hold down a stable job because you were an idiot, you're incompetent. Or if you have addiction problems and you end up homeless because of them, especially in a place like America where it's so easy to become addicted and readily available pharmaceutical legal drugs, people see that as a personal failing and you deserve your poverty. If you have nothing to contribute to the free market, you deserve that poverty. So a lot of people dehumanize homeless people. Joe Rogan recently said, well, why don't we like shoot the homeless in LA? So I will give credit to Fidias that he doesn't inherently show the individual people that he interacts with who are homeless as bad people. And he actually talks about the community these people have and how that can be a nice thing. So here is the start of his video before he gets to Skid Row, where he's interacting with other homeless people.
Exploring the park, one non-profit organization came to give food to the homeless people.
And we focus on providing mutual aid, rehabilitation, and temporary housing to the unhoused and underserved in the Los Angeles community.
It's Clinton, my new friend here that will show me around. He lives here in this park. How many people do you think they live here? 50. You are going to show us around?
I got 4 out clothes, my sock, my workout clothes.
Later we can play some basketball together.
Depends how much game you got.
Did you miss me?
Yes, I did. I didn't even know you were here, buddy.
They invited me in their barbecue there. Cheers, I really appreciate it. Thank you. So what I understood here, people are like a community. Being here, I understood how lucky I am having a family that loves me, not... This is our meal. Thank you guys. I will try first time noodles.
Oh yeah, try them out.
So him being homeless on his own and filming it on his own and actually interacting with homeless people and like being respectful and getting along with them, again, that's fine or whatever. There's of course still the element of putting yourself in a situation, which is the reality for so many people and they can't escape it, just for content. But I'll give him a little pass for that, and he does show them, like, you know, making him food and being nice to him, showing to more people, I guess what a lot of us already know, homeless people are just your average person who is often falling on hard times. Doesn't make them a bad person, doesn't make them an uncontrollable addict or something who is just going to be violent towards you, although those problems exist. A lot of these people just have run out of options in this capitalist hellscape that is the United States of America. But he then goes to Skid Row, which has an infamous reputation. Of course, most people, you know, fear for this guy's safety, and a lot of people tell him not to go. And I think there's a very interesting part where someone actually in Skid Row tells him, you shouldn't really be doing this. Like, it's dangerous for one thing, but you just shouldn't be doing this. And I find this really, really exploitative that he's just making this viral content by going to a place where people often end up because they have no choice in life. They've been screwed over by the capitalist system and they've been forced into a situation where someone like Fidias can just enter into that situation for a day or so, make viral content, exploit these people for money, and then he can just leave it all behind. And unlike the Burundi video, there is no links to homeless charities. He shows a mutual aid charity earlier in the video. There's no links to how we can help these people. There's no links to that mutual aid charity. Like Fidias, can I give some money to people who help the homeless? And then also at the end, he's very happy he survived Skid Row. Again, this is all done for content. You'd think the experience would maybe make him more sympathetic to maybe use this video to help homeless people. He does not do that. So let's have a look at the Skid Row part.
Skid Row, I'm coming! City of Los Angeles is not exactly what you see in the movies. This is Skid Row. How many years you are here?
49. I commuted to other cities, but I lived here.
You like this place?
Yeah, I like this place.
Do you have any advice for me that I will sleep here?
Just keep quiet and try and get along with whoever you meet on the street.
You've been here for how many years?
Going on 41 years this May 15th.
Oh my god.
You can call this place survival zone. This is like a cry for help area. We're all human. You came out here because something in you pulled you. And only those who are pulled and interested will make the difference. Don't interest yourself with silly measures of one night sleeping around here. Don't put yourself in dangers you don't need to be in. Because it's only peaceful to those who are aware of it.
I am screwed. All day I've been filming and people understood that I am not homeless. So people are passing by me and they're saying, don't get too comfortable, and they're shouting to me.
And this place is full with drug addicts.
I slept for 8 hours there and nobody bothered me. I spent successfully the night on Skid Row. Woohoo!
So I'm happy he survived the night on Skid Row, where nothing really happened to him and it was all a bit anticlimactic. I thought I was going to see the most dangerous place in America. It just looked like quite a typical homeless encampment. But generally it's quite gross. Like, yes, I do think it's maybe a bit better than Mr. Beast, where he's not just being like the most eccentric, annoying douchebag, but also, and you know, interviewing people and finding out the situation and showing, yes, there are just normal human beings living in this abject poverty, but there's no point to the video. Like, he's not talking about anything to do with homelessness, really, and how bad it is and how these people have ended up there. Like, maybe give a spotlight to more of them to tell you why they're there in the first place. So one wish for Mr. Beast and these clone channels is when they have experienced these things personally, I wish they'd change. Like, I wish they'd change the direction of the video. I wish that maybe they went in with exploiting poverty for content, but then actually experiencing the poverty themselves, they changed and made a video where they want to help. And this would be such a good opportunity. This video nearly has 2 million views, to plug that mutual aid charity, to get people to maybe give to organizations that help these homeless people in Skid Row, and maybe talk about some of the causes of homelessness in America, rather than solely exploiting it and making, in the title at least, homeless people seem like very, very dangerous people that you should like never ever interact with, and they're just the backdrop for your video where you put yourself in a somewhat dangerous position as an outsider to this homeless community. And it's preying on people's own prejudices against homeless people to get them to click in the first place. But just with Mr. Beast, and probably to a more apparent level, he's just exploiting poverty to make viral content, and generally he is racially insensitive as well. Firstly, to even make this content in the first place and think it's good ideas, but also based on his own interactions with people in the country and how he views himself and his role in an extremely poor country like Burundi. He wants to get a bunch of money to go back, probably to just give it out to people and film their reactions when they gives them food and medicine, with no goal of creating something sustainable, no goal of helping local organizations to actually do something with a significant amount of money. It reminds me very much of Mr. Beast, and I think there's a high degree of either naivety, which I think there's a dose of there, but also extreme main character syndrome and narcissism, where these guys are so ignorant, they think some white Western YouTuber raising a bunch of money can somehow help one of the poorest countries on earth, the same way that Mr. Beast thought he could solve climate change with that stupid Team Trees and Team Seas thing. Western capitalist charity from narcissistic e-celebrities and general celebrities is not going to solve a global economic order that fundamentally relies on the exploitation of the poorest in our world, and a lot of them reside in African countries. But if you're going to do anything, like I said, at least help local organizations or use your videos to spread awareness. Like Mr. Beast, why didn't you use that prison video to spread awareness about something? Like maybe getting criminal convictions expunged which are for non-violent drug offences. Maybe helping people get off their sentences for something like that. Like why don't you put a link to an organisation that helps people? Now you've experienced how brutal prison is for millions of Americans, the most imprisoned population on earth. The same with Fidias. You have this homeless video, why don't you do something with it? And of course, Fidias did try and do something with the Burundi one. That is not what I would say is appropriate, because you have no knowledge of charity work, fundraising, or helping people in an African country which you've only been to once, and by the UN's own recognition is one of the poorest in the world. You're not going to help with a GoFundMe. The charity work these guys do is exactly the same thing as giving that one guy a wheelchair, or like with Ed Sheeran, giving someone a hotel room. Yes, it can be nice for the person on the receiving end of that stuff, but in reality does absolutely nothing to solve the problem. And yes, even with 60,000 euros, it can't solve the problem. Of course it can't, but it could be significant in focusing on like a very specific problem where you could actually help people for the foreseeable future. So Mr. Beast and his clones, please stick to content that doesn't exploit the poor, that doesn't exploit poverty around the world, that isn't racially insensitive. Please just stick to viral challenges, which are also very, very popular as well, and don't exploit exploited people to make yourself even more famous, to boost your reputation, or increase your economic standing, because it is just really, really gross. And although your young fan bases don't realize it yet, hopefully they will one day realize it. And I hope people who maybe came into this with a positive opinion of Mr. Beast and the clone channels will come away a bit more skeptical. But anyway, let me know what you guys think down in the comments, and if you made it this far, thank you all for watching.